Here's the buffing technique I use to improve a deck's handling ability and extend its life. The idea for me started with Gary Youell's idea. He used a pumice stone. Alex Elmsley used a nail file, but he was only concerned with the corners for ferrules. My experience has been that on average this procedure extends the life of a deck by about 30%. I've been told by two different material engineers, I think that's the right word, that it seals the edges of the cards. Now, while I don't have any double-blind scientific studies to prove that, I do know I've never had those brown spots on the white borders that come from dirt and oil. In general, the technique makes the edges and corners of the deck like glass and increases ease of handling, particularly ferrules. The quality of the United States Playing Card Company has increased dramatically in the last 20 years or so, but this technique is still very valuable. I have yet to see a new deck that couldn't be improved on with this technique. With the advent of specialty cards that have unique back patterns, the technique becomes very valuable since those cards come at a premium price. And getting more time out of a deck is of interest to anyone who uses these cards. I've tested this technique on almost all cards produced by the United States Playing Card Company. However, I've not had the opportunity to test them on decks of cards that are made outside of the United States. Having said that, let's begin. Okay, here's the materials you're going to need in order to use this technique. This is a deck of cards, we knew that. This is a piece of Lexan that I got for $2 from Lowe's Hardware. I got to peel this off, it's brand new. What you want to do is you want a surface that is as hard as possible. Ideally, you should get a piece of, really thick plate glass, but since I tend to break things, I find this extremely useful. You don't want any nicks, edges, or anything. It has to be very smooth and very hard. And perfectly flat. So using a plate or something like that is not a good idea. I have found that plates and things like that sometimes have such a gentle curve you can't tell with the naked eye, but you'd be able to tell if you did a deck of cards like that. Okay. The next thing you're going to need is this, and it's a 4-way fingernail buffer, but I only use this brand. I've tested out other brands, and no other brands have produced the results as this one. I imagine I could find one somewhere, but this is what I use. It's a 4-way fingernail buffer, and it's a jumbo fingernail. It's a 4-way colossal buffer. It says Tropical Shine. In the States, I get these from Sally's Beauty Supply. I usually get 4 or 5 at a time. They last quite a while if you know how to treat them, and I'm going to see if I can give you a close-up there. There you go. That's what it looks like. And then on the other side, it's got this. Notice it is disinfectable. And I've never washed one. Okay, so that's what you need. And of course, a deck of playing cards. You can tell I was from a rough neighborhood. What you're going to do is you're going to open the cards up. Ha! You'd think I'd be able to do this, huh? You're going to open the cards up in my traditional way that I open cards up. I just usually destroy the box. Okay, here we go. Now, in bicycle cards, there's 2 jokers here and 2 ad cards here, and you want to keep them there. If you don't keep those cards in, what happens is the edge of the card on the outside will not jive with the rest of the deck. Alright, so you're going to use all 4 sides of the buffer, and what you're going to do is you're going to carefully square. Now I want you to notice my forefinger curled up here. I don't want to flex the deck that way, but I don't want the deck to flex this way, and I want to try and keep this card tight to the deck so it's not jutting out or slipping out. Start with the blue side, and it's better when you first start to learn this. It's better to use light strokes until you learn what you're doing, until you've got the knack. There. Okay, now right now, I can feel this edge, and it's basically very, very smooth. I'd say it would increase the, it took off all the rough parts of the cards. Now go to the pink side and give it a few, like that. Then go to the white side, like that. And then, now, you see how this See on that card, that joker is kind of edging out? You don't want to do that. So what I'll do is I'll usually put a middle finger, my right middle finger there, as I'm doing this, if that happens. All right, so you go over it a few times like that, and then, of course, white and gray. And right now, I guarantee you, you have never, this deck right here, you'll never feel a deck like that unless you buff it. This edge right there is as smooth as glass. Anybody who uses this technique will tell you that. Then I do the other long edge the same way. And you'll notice I'm talking while I do this, but this is only going to take me a few minutes to do the whole deck. White, and use white. And then finish it off with gray. Now, before you fast forward, let me tell you something very specific. I'm going to do this to the short edges as well. However, if you'll notice, see those cards separating? So what you want to do is just put just enough tension with your forefinger to try and keep those cards from separating. If you need to, you can turn it around like this and use the same pressure. You'll probably never get it perfect, but it does help to try and keep those cards there. The next thing you want to do is these edges, the short edges, and then you're going to take care of the corners. So, in order to take care of the corners, you don't really want to sand them really heavy. I don't even use the blue part. I just kind of knock the rough off like that, and then I'll smooth it out with the white and the gray side. You can feel it. If you do this, you'll be able to feel whether it needs more or not. You just don't want rough spots. And then you do the other short side. I'm going to twist the deck because I'm getting kind of a bow here. And just kind of knock the rough off. And that's almost it. The next thing you want to do is you want to save these and save these. Now, when you first do this, what you'll do is if you riffle, you'll actually see some dust come off the cards. Well, you want to get rid of that dust, so you want to shuffle the cards a few times. And then usually what I'll do is I'll reverse half the deck like this, and then probably do a couple of pharaohs, and then I'll check the deck to make sure that basically that I haven't created a stripper deck. Well, that's pretty good. I would be happy with this deck of playing cards. These top edges need to be done a little bit more, and this time I'm only going to use 2 cards on the face. They don't need really a lot of rough work, just probably this. I'll go over that one more time. Oh yeah, that's good. And that is basically the technique. If you have to go over the edge again, though, I do recommend you check the corners after you do, so that you haven't inadvertently created any kind of rough spots. In about, I don't know, if you practice this, you'll probably get the technique down after a few decks. You will, like I said, have to break them in just a little bit, because that dust tends to creep in between the cards. That is the technique. It works and has worked really well for me. I'll try and show a close-up. There you go. Perfect weave. Okay, now this is the same deck that I just buffed. I spent about 5 minutes shuffling it and springing the cards a few times to get the dust out, and I'm going to attempt to do some weaves. Now, I'm not going to try and go for perfect pharaohs. I'm a little out of practice. However, I do want you to see how easy the cards weave. It's a good weave, too. It's not a perfect pharaoh, but the cards do weave rather nicely, rather smoothly, and I'm going to try next a face-up. I don't have much occasion to do face-up. However, these cards do weave rather nicely, face-up. So as you can see, the technique actually does make pharaohs easier. The cards feel great. They're going to look great, 30% longer. And within 10 minutes out of the box, you can make pharaohing very easy. Okay, there it is, the 4-way colossal buffer. Notice for the professional. And if you'll also notice, the surfaces are numbered. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. That's what it looks like.